Wanted to show you guys this real quick. These are my starter plants here. A bunch of different things like chilies, lettuces. These are my corns. They're called glass corn. And I have a bunch of pretty colors. Unfortunately, my cat knocked over the last tray over there, so that's why they look like that. These plants here are just tiny babies. These ones are going to be flowers. Got this whole one set up, but I just barely started with those. And then here, I got these that were flowers that were sent to my woman by another woman. And I got them to see if I can get them to root. Kinda nice. Those are the flowers there. As you can see, I raked out the gardens I already had set up from last year. So now, these ones are already ready to go, and I'm prepping plants right now to go into all of these. I don't know if you can see them too well. You can see the wood chips on top of them that I put last year. Yeah. I've still got the markers to show what I had in certain spots. We've got baby-sized strawberry plants coming up. Those will just keep coming up every year. That's why I planted them back here. Well, looks like we got some volunteers over here. They're coming up all on their own from where I raked the leaves off. So it's kind of nice to know that I'm going to have some onions this year. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys an update here as to what I'm doing. So far this is where one of my driveways are going to be, since it's next to where I'm going to have my fire pit over here. I'm starting to get stone, and this driveway is going to be lined in stone versus the other driveway is going to be lined up in wood chips. Just because, you know, wood chips are abundant here, it's much easier to do the wood chips. But since this is going to be next to a fire pit, I can't have wood chips because I don't need to start fires. So what I've been doing is I've been digging rocks out of the rock pile. I've been sifting them, and the dirt will go into the gardens, and the rocks themselves come out here. I'll show you what my separation device looks like. Ended up buying this at Lowe's. It is, I'd say, probably about ½ inch at biggest for each of the holes. This is actually supposed to be part of a screen door protector. So if you have like a screen door and you would see this on like the bottom where a dog would like bash off of it or whatever to protect the screen from being ripped, that's what this is. I screwed a couple of knobs on the end, and I just use this and shift this back and forth, and whatever is good dirt falls through, and whatever doesn't comes out here. Relatively simple to do. Knobs that come with screws and screen door protector. It's the best one I could find as far as the size I was looking for. Wanted to show you guys. This is the big cinder blocks and rocks that I had Rob remove from the big concrete rock pile over here. and they're consolidated over there for later use. Over here, as you can see, there's still a ton of rocks that I'm trying to get separated out. But since I need this area for the rest of my raised bed gardens, I'm trying to clean this out as fast as possible. And you can see it's a lot of work, and I'm still going. Unfortunately, it takes a long time to sift the dirt out of the rocks so that I can separate them for different purposes. Plus, these are kind of blocking my raised bed gardens over here. So I need this gone before I can complete this lower portion of the raised bed gardens. You can see over here the difference in the colors, of course. This is the dirt that I've been taking out of the rocks that I'm sifting and out of the driveway, so that it'll speed up the process of the leaves breaking down, because I would like to use these gardens this year. You see that one's over there is just leaves. This one stops right about halfway in of dirt covering the top of the leaves. It's only about 2 inches worth of dirt, so you know, it's not a lot, but I can probably grow radishes in these center gardens if I do these like this year. So that's my intention, to see if I can get something started. And then I have to finish off this over here. Garbage can I found out here. Do I get a woodpecker? Oh, it's a tiny little bird. Probably can't see him. Let's see if I can zoom into that. Where you at, buddy? Where'd you go? Oh, you're on that upper branch up there. Yeah, there he is. Your famous little birdie. Anyways. Over here to the left side of where these gardens are, I've still got to rake this out, separate the leaves and everything else. And over there I'm going to put some gardens. And that's my little hill. That's going to be a pretty area for flowers and wood sorrel. And then I got to finish these gardens over here. I got to put 2 more over here. Now these are still going to be my test gardens. These are the ones I had set up earlier in the videos. It's broken down a little bit, but yeah, I'd say it's probably a quarter to half the size that it was before. But for these, I'm not putting anything on top of them as far as soil, manure, nothing. These are my test gardens for future use, to see when I do a bricks test, to see if these actually worked out better. So these 4 gardens, like these 2 here, I'm looking to do just the ground up leaves. And then the other 2 over there are my test gardens, to not even put the leaves through the wood chipper, just throw them right in place. And later on, when I do my fruit, I'm going to use these for my bricks test, just for natural substances, you know, zero manure, topsoil, nothing like that. The rest of these gardens are going to get, these ones will probably have topsoil when I build them. And these ones are going to have topsoil on top of them in the center gardens, just like those ones over there. But the ones over there, those are going to be my test gardens for manure over the top of the leaves, and then topsoil above the manure, because, you know, I'm not trying to poison the ground here with pure manure. But granted, I'm sure I'll have a test garden that's just pure manure, just so I can see the differences of them. and I'll be taking the brick tests later to determine which is the best way to do it for the best types of fruit. Nice, right? Alright, as you can see, I'm in my driveway here, and as you probably remember if you watched the first videos, I have a bunch of raked leaves. I just re-raked them again to get them consolidated, and I was going to start showing you guys how I sift the dirt out of the rocks, but the ground was a little frozen, so I'm going to give that like an hour or two, and I'm just going to run along and get a bunch of wood leaves chipped up, and then I'll be lining a bunch of the gardens with that. And yeah, let's get started with that. Alright, well, it's starting to warm up now. As you guys can see, I was throwing the sticks out of the leaves that I was grinding up, and I was just throwing them right here in the driveway. This driveway, at this point where I'm throwing the sticks, is about a foot lower than over on the other side. So with me throwing the sticks here later on, dropping wood chips, I'll be able to just cover this up a lot faster. And I'm still waiting on a load. I signed up for chip drop, so hopefully they bring me a bunch of wood chips so I can just line this entire driveway with it and be done with it. It'll be nice and even by the time I'm done filling it with the wood chips. Granted, I've got to even it out over there a little bit more because some of it sank from the point where I leveled it out before. Take you for a walk over there and show you what's going on. Alright, so this over here, as you'll notice, my tire tracks and everything over there, that's from me driving over the top of it, and it's compacting itself. It was pretty much even with this over here, but not anymore. So I've got to dig out this little mound right here, and then once I do, I'll be able to just have it as kind of a nice out driveway. See if I can get you to see this better. And not really. But I'm fixing it as it goes. Bunch of work. I'll be done soon enough. As you remember in the earlier videos, this is one of the piles that I originally raked up. And it looks like there's no pile there even now, but I'm sure once I start raking it up, it'll fluff right up again. This is another one of the piles. It pretty much looks like nothing. And then this is a pile I raked together just a few minutes ago, so I can keep going with my wood chipping of the leaves. Alright, I went and dumped the full bag of chipped leaves in one of the gardens over there. And I'm going to keep on going. Yay! So as you guys can see, I got these big trees over here right next to where my driveway is. So these big trees have been dropping leaves for years, which have been breaking down. Since my driveway is going to go over this, and this area is not going to matter anyways as far as topsoil and whatever goes. I'm skimming the topsoil roughly the first 2 to 3 inches depending on how far I can get, and I'm sifting it into my buckets over here. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm just using the stuff that I already have. As you will see, there's rocks down here that I sorted out over there. But basically, since I don't need any of this topsoil to be here, but I need it over there, I'm skimming the top coat off, and I'm going to use that in my gardens. Alright, over here, this is my future driveway. I took a rope over here, and I ended up just making sure I have a straight line so that I can follow all the way up, and then after I skim the top of this off, I'm going to drop the rocks down on top of that area that I've already skimmed up. Let's get started. I figured I'd get you guys a better angle here so you can see what I'm actually doing. As you'll notice, I tap this every once in a while because if your dirt is a little wet, it'll start clinging to the sides of the little grates here, and that'll keep you from being able to get more stuff through. So if you give it a tap every once in a while, stuff will fall out, holes will be bigger, it'll allow you to grind it down faster. Now that was relatively quick. When I first started it, before I started doing, Mr. Miyagi's wax on, wax off, or whatever the thing is, I was trying to push it back and forth, and it took a whole lot longer. I find that if you just go in little circles, it'll grind the rocks up off of the mud quicker. That's about it. That's the same thing I do every time. Whew. I didn't get it in there good, did I? There's a piece in there. But yeah, fast, easy way. Unfortunately, this was expensive for this grate because I couldn't find the proper screen size that I wanted. Everything was either too big or too small. So this ended up being just about right. This ended up costing it like somewhere around $40 at Lowe's. But as you see, works real well, separates the stuff. I'll be able to top coat my gardens over there real quick, and yeah, just makes things a little bit easier. Use what you have access to. These are all free materials, even though it looks like it's a horrible situation to get into. It is, and it's a lot of moving rocks and whatever, but since they dump piles of concrete and everything, concrete, broken up rocks, and whatever over here, I've even got a small pile of asphalt over there. That's not big enough to really use for any significant amount of stuff. And I still got to dig the concrete out from over there to finish that off. That's where I got the concrete pieces for the fire circle, was over there. So yeah, I'm just going to continue this on, and within 2 years should be real nice. Like, granted, my woman is changing my plans after I already set up the walkways. She's like, well, what about this? And I'm like, okay. She's like, you don't have to. I'm like, you're gonna live here too. We're gonna make it how we want it to look. So we're changing the plan as to which ways the pathway goes. Now she wants the bridge to go from this side over to the other side over there, which means this whole pathway over here became useless, but it means I've also opened up areas for more raised bed gardens. And I'll just make a pathway coming off that way and a pathway coming down. Make your plans, adapt to your plans, adapt the plans to what the world tells you you're forced to do, Like, a lot of my plans have changed at least 3 or 4 times out here, but it'll still be beautiful. I'm gonna keep working here. Alright, since this takes a while, I'm gonna listen to some music while I end up doing this, and you guys are gonna hear it probably at 4 times the speed. Enjoy. Alright, so now we're back at my garden. So over here, this is one of the raised bed gardens I have that already have the leaves chopped up in it. And I've already put the azomite, worm castings, everything like that in here. And now I'm just going to show you how I've been topping all of this stuff for the middle gardens. And yeah, that's about it. No big deal, just doing a shovel. Roughly about 2 inches thick worth of dirt. You know, roughly, don't sit there and measure it. Just get it in there and get it working. Okay, so you guys can see that's all I did over there. I put the leaves down through the topsoil that I dug out of there on top of it, and that's going to seep into the leaves. It's going to do 2 things. It's going to, one, block the sun from getting to the leaves so the bacteria can break it down quicker, and 2, it'll help to be a cold barrier for the leaves, so that any kind of worm castings or whatever that I threw in there, now they have a blanket. And it's not a lot, but it's getting it going. And we're coming up closer to warmer days here, so that's going to be pretty nice. It's supposed to be somewhere around the low to mid 50s today, and I'm glad I was able to get out here to get this stuff started. I recently just got in contact with someone on Craigslist, which said he's got 7 cubic yards of horse manure. So I'm like, awesome. So that'll add more tests to my garden that I'm going to be doing. These ones in the middle are just going to be leaves and topsoil on top of that. That one over there is pure unbroken down leaves and a little bit of straw. This is broken down leaves with, it's just going to be broken down leaves. I'm not putting anything else in those because those are tests I want to do. This one right here, I know the stuff underneath is going to break down relatively quickly. So just throwing this topsoil on, that's how I'm going to finish all the middle gardens. Just leaves, topsoil. Over here, which you can't see, I've already got leaves down in these beds. I'm going to have to continue on and finish these beds out. But those are going to be the start of the manure. I'm going to put manure right on top of those leaves over there, and manure on top of these leaves. This way I get a mixture of, compost vegetation and composted excrement. And over there, I'm going to do a couple of gardens of just pure horse manure. Because of course we all know that we grow plants in manure. It's a simple thought process there. But that'll be the end of my tests. All the rest of the gardens after all of these will be a mixture of everything. We'll have the chipped up leaves, topped by horse manure, topped by topsoil, and of course azomite in between each of those layers, and the worm castings will be most likely just on top of the leaves and under the leaves, because there's no reason to have them running through stuff they don't need to run through. It's already broken down materials. That's about it. It's a relatively easy thing to do. It does take a lot of time. But it's going to be well worth it by the time it's all said and done. But since I've got a possible 7 cubic yards of horse manure coming, now I've got to start clearing out some other areas over here so I can just start running with gardens, and it's going to be enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed yourself, guys. That's pretty much all the types of things I'm going to be doing during the day. I'm going to keep setting up these with the leaves, because I want to get them in place as fast as possible. Because supposedly Wednesday I'm supposed to get a delivery of manure, and I want places for it to go instantly. I just don't want a giant pile of crap sitting in my driveway. So I hope you enjoyed yourself, guys. I hope you learned something. If you didn't learn anything, well, good for you. Have fun, guys.